The first scream came from beneath the floorboards. It was faint, distorted, almost like the wind, but Emma Lewis knew what she heard. She stood frozen in her new home on the Turkish coast, a villa overlooking the Aegean Sea, clutching her teacup as a chill crept down her spine. The house had been silent moments ago, filled only with the smell of jasmine and sea salt. Her husband, Dr. Arda Demir, had left early for his clinic, promising dinner at sunset. Yet something beneath her feet moved, slow, dragging as if someone were awake in the basement. How does a doctor keep secrets in a home so open, so perfect? And what kind of patient makes that kind of sound? 2 days earlier, Emma had arrived in Izmir full of hope. The air smelled of salt and roasted chestnuts. She'd felt reborn stepping into Arda's world. He'd met her at the airport with roses, whispering that she was home now. The drive along the coast had been a dream. Marble villas, children playing, stray cats basking in the sun. Yet even then, she'd noticed how Arda flinched whenever someone mentioned his clinic. He'd change the subject, kiss her hand, and say, "You'll see soon enough." It wasn't until their first night in the villa that she heard the thud below their bedroom floor. A rhythmic, living sound, like someone knocking, asking to be let out. Ayla, the housekeeper, greeted Emma with quiet formality. She spoke little English, but her eyes spoke plenty, weary knowing. That night, as Emma unpacked, Ayla brought tea and whispered, "The basement stays locked. Doctor's rule." Her voice trembled slightly. Emma laughed it off, assuming she meant medical privacy. But as Ayla left, Emma noticed how the woman's hands shook, how she made a sign with her fingers near the door, as though warding off evil. Later, when Emma asked Arda about it, he smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "She's superstitious." Yet his tone carried something else, something practiced. At sunset, Arda returned from work with his usual composure, smile precise, eyes unreadable. He poured wine, asked about her day, and told stories of Istanbul hospitals and miracle recoveries. But when Emma asked if she could see his clinic, the air shifted. He paused, mid-sip, eyes flicking to the window. "You wouldn't like it," he said softly. "It's for patients who can't be seen." His tone made the room colder. When he touched her hand, his was colder still. The waves outside crashed harder against the rocks, as if echoing her heart. That night, the sound returned. Louder. Emma lay awake beside her husband, who slept deeply, his breathing even. She could hear it beneath them. Slow, dragging, like something heavy being moved. Her pulse raced. She leaned closer to the floor, hearing faint murmurs in Turkish, words she couldn't understand. Then a single voice, whispering her name. She jerked upright, staring at Arda's still face in the moonlight. Was it her imagination? Or was something down there calling for help? The next morning, Arda left early again, his car disappearing down the narrow coastal road. The moment he was gone, Emma found herself staring at the basement door. It was locked, as always. She crouched, running her fingers along the keyhole, noticing faint scorch marks on the metal. The smell of antiseptic leaked from the cracks. A heartbeat machine! But who was down there? She pressed her ear to the door, and beneath the steady beep came a wet, guttural sound. A whisper that made her recoil. Whatever Arda was doing, it wasn't medical. It was a lie. Later that day, Ayla found Emma in the kitchen. She was pale, distracted, staring at nothing. "You heard them, didn't you?" Ayla said in a low voice, her Turkish accent thick. Emma froze. "He helps the dead," Ayla whispered, eyes darting toward the basement. "Not like doctors. Like someone who cannot let go." Emma tried to laugh it off. But the tremor in Ayla's hands told her it wasn't superstition. It was fear born from truth. Before Emma could respond, the sound of a car door slamming outside made them both flinch. Arda was home early. Arda entered the villa smiling, his voice smooth, his manner gentle. But Emma saw something in his eyes, a flicker of calculation. He placed his bag on the counter, kissed her cheek, and said, "I've brought you something." Inside the bag was a small silver pendant in the shape of a heart. It was warm to the touch. Too warm. "A token from my patience," he said. Emma asked softly, "Your patience?" "They never visit?" Arda's smile didn't waver. "They don't need to. They're here with me always." His words hung in the air like stat. That night, unable to sleep, Emma crept through the hall with a flashlight. The house groaned with the wind. Every step echoed louder than it should have. When she reached the basement door, she noticed the lock had been replaced. New, polished, heavier. Yet from underneath, a faint blue light flickered. She knelt, trying to peek through the gap, and froze. A pair of eyes stared back. Not human. Not alive either. They didn't blink. They just watched her. By morning, the eyes were gone. Or maybe they had never been. Arda made breakfast as if nothing happened, humming softly in Turkish. When Emma mentioned the noise, he only smiled. "You worry too much. You're safe here. Safe. Safe." The word rang hollow. As she turned to pour coffee, her gaze drifted to the calendar on the wall. 7 dates were circled in red, each exactly 30 days apart. The next one was tomorrow, and beneath the final date, written in Arda's handwriting, was her name. The storm came without warning. Rain pounded against the windows, thunder cracking over the Aegean. Emma couldn't sleep. Her mind throbbed with the sound of the monitor she'd heard days ago. At 2:17 a.m., lightning flashed, and the power cut out. The villa plunged into darkness. Her phone's weak flashlight lit the hall as she moved toward the basement. The new lock glinted faintly, but this time it wasn't locked. Her fingers hesitated on the handle. Her heart thundered as loudly as the sky outside. She whispered his name, "Arda," and pushed the door open. The stairs creaked under Emma's feet as she descended. The air grew colder, metallic. The smell hit first, chemicals and rot. Then she saw it. A long table draped with surgical cloth, lit by a single flickering fluorescent bulb. Metal trays glistened. But it was what lay on the table that made her stumble back. A figure stitched from fragments of bodies, its chest rising and falling with shallow, mechanical breaths. Tubes pulsed under its skin. Its eyes were open but empty, staring straight up. She clapped a hand over her mouth to stop from screaming. What kind of doctor was Arda Demir? She stumbled backward, her breath ragged when a soft click echoed behind her. The door had shut. Emma turned and saw Ayla standing there, holding a small lantern. Her expression was blank, eyes hollow. "He said you'd come," she murmured. "He said curiosity would save you." Emma whispered. "What is this?" Ayla's gaze drifted toward the body on the table. "They were his first attempts," she said. "He thought he could bring back the ones he lost." Her voice trembled, but they never came back right. A low moan rose from the corner. Something was moving. Emma turned toward the sound, her flashlight trembling in her grip. The movement came from a large steel tank, half hidden by tarps. The faint heartbeat monitor still beeped. She pulled the cover away and screamed. Inside, suspended in cloudy fluid, floated something that used to be human. A woman's face, eyes half open, lips twitching. Tubes entered her spine, her heart wired to machines, and on the glass, written in red marker, were the words, "Test Subject 7, L. Demir." Emma froze. Demir. Arda's last name. His sister, his dead sister. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from above. Arda was home. Emma's body went rigid. She looked at Ayla, who silently backed into the shadows. The basement light flickered once more as Arda's voice called down the stairs, calm and steady. "You shouldn't be here, my love. His tone wasn't angry. It was tender, almost mournful. You weren't supposed to see them until it was perfected. Emma stared at him as he appeared in the doorway, eyes glinting in the dim light. Until what was perfected, she whispered. He smiled faintly. Life after death. Arda closed the basement door behind him, the soft click echoing like a death knell. Emma could feel the chill of the concrete seep into her bones. You need to understand, he said softly, his voice calm, almost hypnotic. Life can be rewritten. Death isn't permanent. He led her past the surgical table and the tanks, showing her notebooks filled with sketches of hearts, brains, and twisted anatomical diagrams. These patients, these experiments, they were never meant to die. I promised them life again. Emma's stomach turned. Every page was covered in bloodstains and tiny meticulous notes. Dates, chemicals, vital signs. Her mind raced. How could a human become a subject without anyone noticing? Emma stepped closer to a row of tanks, each containing a suspended figure. Some were stitched, others partially reanimated, twitching unnaturally. The machines monitored their vitals, producing eerie bleeps in the silent basement. Arda whispered, "Each one is a trial. Some fail, others succeed. My sister was the prototype. You, Emma, could be next." Her heart froze. She tried to step back, but the metallic scent of formaldehyde and chemicals pinned her in place. She realized that everything she'd believed about Arda, the kind husband, the skilled doctor, was a lie. He was a creator of monsters. Emma's hands trembled as she backed toward the stairs. Why would you do this?" she demanded. Arda tilted his head, eyes soft yet hollow. "Because death is a mistake," he said, "and someone must correct it. They don't remember. They don't suffer until they awaken." Emma's gaze fell on a small tray of surgical tools, each with tiny droplets of blood still fresh. She realized that patients weren't patients at all. They were corpses, partially revived, trapped between life and death. Her stomach turned violently. How could someone love so much and harm so completely? A sudden noise made both of them turn. One of the tanks trembled violently. The figure inside twisted unnaturally, groaning, pulling against the restraints. Emma stumbled back, heart hammering. Arda approached calmly, whispering, "It's learning. It's adapting." The human form convulsed, eyes rolling, skin twitching as if a mind were trapped inside, trying to reach out. Emma realized she was witnessing the full horror of his experiments, not just reanimation, but partial resurrection. A grotesque mockery of life itself. Emma turned to flee, but Arda blocked the stairs, his calm demeanor terrifying. "You see now," he said softly. "This is what love can do. Life perfected. And you, my dear, could help me finish it." Panic surged, but Emma's mind raced. Escape was the only option. She bolted past him, heart pounding, adrenaline burning through her veins. The basement echoed with the groans of half-living forms. Each step away felt like leaving a trail of innocence behind. Above her, the storm outside thundered, matching the terror inside. She had glimpsed the truth, and there was no turning back. Emma sprinted up the basement stairs, heart hammering, lungs burning. The storm outside pounded against the villa, as if the world itself was warning her. But when she reached the top, the door slammed shut behind her. Ayla stood there, lantern in hand, eyes empty and unreadable. "Sorry," she whispered, her voice thin, trembling. Emma froze. "No," she hissed. "You can't." But Ayla simply stepped aside, letting Arda appear in the doorway, wet from the storm, his expression calm yet terrifying. "Running was never an option," he said softly. Her pulse raced. Every instinct screamed to fight or flee, but they had trapped her. Arda stepped closer, hand reaching toward her. "You've seen too much to leave," he said, voice soft but heavy with obsession. Emma backed away, eyes darting for a weapon. Ayla remained still, blocking one side of the hall. Every thought screamed escape, but every step seemed trapped between Arda's calm menace and Ayla's silent loyalty. The villa had become a cage, and the storm outside echoed her terror. She realized that running wasn't enough. She needed a plan, and she needed it now. Emma remembered the spare key Arda had left for emergencies. It was hidden under the loose floor tile in the kitchen. Her hand darted under it, fingers brushing metal. Arda noticed a faint smile on his lips. "Clever," he whispered. "But clever doesn't save you." Her heart raced, adrenaline spiking. She grabbed the key, barely noticing Ayla's hesitation, as the older woman's eyes flickered with conflict. Emma felt a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could escape this nightmare. Emma bolted toward the front door, key clutched tightly. The storm screamed around her, rain stinging her face, wind tugging at her hair. But the lock wouldn't turn. Behind her, Arda whispered softly, "It's never that easy, my love." Panic surged as Ayla stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "Go!" Emma shouted, and in that instant, Ayla's loyalty cracked. She swung the lantern toward Arda, creating a diversion. Emma yanked the door open and plunged into the stormy night, mud and water soaking her shoes, heart racing faster than she thought possible. Freedom was close, but the nightmare was far from over. Emma ran into the darkness, the villa disappearing behind her in a wall of rain and thunder. The screams of the basement, the moans of the reanimated, and Arda's calm voice echoed in her mind. But she didn't stop. She didn't look back. Each step carried her farther from the nightmare, but the knowledge stayed. Arda wasn't finished, and somewhere, he was already planning his next experiment. Emma realized she had survived, for now, but the horror she had witnessed would haunt her forever. And the question remained, could someone so meticulous, so brilliant, ever truly be caught? Emma crouched behind a rain-soaked bush outside the villa, shivering from cold and fear. Her clothes were torn, mud streaked her legs, and her hands still gripped the small metal key. Lightning split the sky as she watched Arda moving inside, calmly inspecting his basement, oblivious to her presence. She knew she couldn't let him continue. Not after everything she had seen. Her heart pounded, but her mind sharpened. She had to destroy the evidence, the tanks, the reanimated corpses, the notebooks, before anyone else could fall victim to his obsession. The storm seemed to fuel her courage, thunder echoing her fury. She slipped inside through the back door, heart hammering, ears straining for any sound. The basement door loomed ahead, its faint blue glow beckoning her. Emma quickly doused a container of flammable liquid near the tanks, her hands shaking. She could hear Arda moving upstairs, humming softly, completely unaware. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. She set a rag alight and threw it toward the tanks. Flames erupted instantly, crackling with heat and smoke. The moans of the reanimated forms filled the basement, terrifying and pitiful. Emma stumbled back, coughing, adrenaline surging as the fire consumed the nightmare below. Emma bolted up the stairs as the villa shook with fire. Smoke filled every corner, stinging her eyes, but adrenaline drove her forward. The sound of glass shattering and metal bending echoed behind her. She didn't stop for anything. Not the collapsing beams, not the screech of the reanimated corpses below. Outside, the storm lashed at her, rain soaking her further, but freedom was in sight. She stumbled over the threshold, collapsing onto the muddy lawn. Lightning illuminated the flames devouring the villa behind her, sending shadows dancing into the night. She had survived, but Arda was gone. Weeks later, Detective Murat Kaya arrived at the scorched villa. The fire had left only charred remnants of walls and tanks. Emma, wrapped in a blanket, recounted everything in hushed tones. Arda's experiments, the basement, the reanimated corpses. Murat's gray eyes narrowed as he examined the wreckage, finding fragments of notebooks and broken glass vials. Yet, there was no trace of Arda. He had vanished, leaving behind only the terror of his creation. Murat wondered quietly, could someone so meticulous disappear completely? Or was he still hiding, planning the next test? Emma sat on a cliff overlooking the Aegean, wrapped in her blanket, staring at the waves. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from memories she could not erase, the tanks, the stitched bodies, the look in Arda's eyes. Murat Kaya stood behind her, notebook in hand, quietly taking notes. He's gone. For now, he said. Emma nodded silently, knowing the nightmare could return at any moment. Somewhere Arda lived on, his obsession unbroken. But she had survived, and she would never forget what she had seen. The truth that life in his hands was no longer sacred, but a terrifying experiment. Detective Murat Kaya sat in his office, the charred fragments of Arda Demir's notebooks spread across the desk. Emma watched silently, her fingers clutching the edge of her sweater, green eyes hollow from sleepless nights. The notebooks detailed every experiment: names, dates, chemical formulas, vital signs, failures, successes. Murat's gaze hardened. He wasn't just a doctor, he said quietly. He was a scientist obsessed with rewriting life itself. Emma shivered. Every page she had glimpsed in the basement now burned into her memory. Murat turned a page and froze. One entry was dated yesterday, signed with Arda's hand. He's alive, Murat whispered, the weight of the words sinking in. Emma replayed the recordings she had secretly made in the basement. The whir of monitors, the mechanical groans of half-living forms, Arda's calm, soothing voice. It all echoed in her mind. Murat watched as she pointed to the screen, trembling. This proves everything, she said. He wants to keep going. Even now, Murat nodded grimly. Every shadow in those recordings, every half-alive twitch, confirmed the horror she had endured. But the final clip was different. A whisper. Barely audible, calling her name from the static. Emma froze. That voice, familiar, intimate, it was Arda. The case file was thick, filled with photos, statements, and Arda's handwritten notes. Murat leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. I've never seen anything like this, he muttered. Emma watched quietly, her mind racing. He planned everything meticulously, she said softly. The fire, the storm, the house, even my escape. He wanted me to see it all, but survive. Murat frowned. A genius or a monster? Emma whispered, almost to herself. Both, she said. And he's still out there. A week later, Emma returned to the coast, walking along the cliffs overlooking the Aegean. The sea roared beneath her, but the terror that had gripped her nights was still alive inside. Murat trailed behind, notebook in hand, silent. Emma's thoughts returned to Arda. The calm precision, the obsession, the monsters he had created. Could he be caught? Or would he continue somewhere else, perfecting life beyond death? She clenched her fists, knowing the answer would haunt her forever. Some horrors, she realized, never truly end. The final entry in the case file was a voice recording, uploaded anonymously. The faint, calm voice of Arda whispered across the static. You survived, but the work continues. Emma froze, the sound sending chills down her spine. Murat leaned closer, uneasy. The recording ended abruptly, leaving only the echo of waves and wind. Emma's lips parted, trembling. Somewhere, Arda was alive. Somewhere, he was watching. Wait, and the nightmare that had begun in a villa on the Turkish coast was far from over. She realized the truth. Survival didn't mean safety, only awareness. and awareness could never fully undo horror.